So welcome to another episode of The Existential Roast with your host, Tim. Sophia, last time we caught up, we had so much fun.
We had so much fun.
That here we are again, and you said you were only going to do one episode.
I did, and you've brought me back on. Couldn't help myself. Very excited to be here.
I've convinced you to come back. I hope that you'll just keep doing them and it will be our podcast.
Look, never say never, right?
So I've had a lot of interesting experiences in the dating field in the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, I'm trying to think when we did our first episode. It was about a month ago now, wasn't it?
Yeah, about a month.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. All right. I'm excited to delve into it.
Well, we touched on so many interesting things last time, and of course it's a never-ending topic. There's so much to talk about, so much to cover.
Yeah.
I feel as though we could talk about this honestly until the cows come home.
I agree.
Something that I've been thinking about recently, and it's an experience I've had on the apps, is trauma dumping.
Mm-hmm.
So trauma dumping, for those playing at home, is, I've actually got a definition here. I'm going to read it straight from Google.
I love that.
So trauma dumping is when someone unloads a lot of their trauma on you, in most cases without warning or prompting. It could be over text or on a date, early in the relationship, or a little later on. This generally brings relief to the sharer, but anxiety and discomfort to the listener. Have you had experience with trauma dumping before?
I feel like this one's a really hard one for me because I feel like anyone who is naturally empathic or has people-pleasing tendencies, which I know I do, tends to be that role for a lot of people. And I always, feel a bit like an unpaid therapist in my personal life anyway. But particularly when it comes to dating, it's a real slippery slope because I feel like trauma dumping can very quickly turn into trauma bonding. And without getting into the psychological description of what trauma bonding is, I think I've definitely been in situations with people where they have, for whatever reason, felt comfortable enough to disclose some very personal things to me very early on. It's taken me by surprise, but it's also probably created a false sense that we're closer than we should be, right? Now, I read an article that states that you don't really know someone until you've spent 200 hours with them. It's a long time.
It's a long time.
So when you're going into a date and you're telling someone your life story within that first hour, and then you add maybe chemistry to the cocktail and you add alcohol or whatever else, it can be, I think, a very powerful but a very dangerous way to build connection with someone. It's something that I personally wrestle with from the perspective of, I have a podcast, I talk about relationships, I talk about invisible illness, but at the same time, you don't want to go into a date and, word vomit at someone, but at the same time, you want to get to know them. And you and I actually had this conversation off camera about how I think you were saying that the first date should be just fun and there shouldn't be too much pressure on it. But I feel like if you're meeting someone and you have a bond with them or a deep connection, you're going to go there.
Sure. I think from memory I said the first date should something be 80% fun and 20% depth, whereas a second date, maybe it's more 60% fun, 40% depth, maybe third date 50-50.
Yeah.
I also read somewhere that it's not a good idea just to lay everything out on the table on date one. Mm-hmm. I think with my experiences with trauma dumping is that I'll meet someone, and it might even be on the app, I may not even meet them in person, but they start just offloading, and I haven't asked for it. And it's not, I think what you're talking about is when two people come together, but they're sharing their experiences.
Which I don't necessarily think is a good thing though.
Not straight away, no, not on first date.
No.
Whereas what I'm talking about are people who, it's one-sided. So here's all my skeletons in the closet, here are my deep dark secrets, these are my insecurities and anxieties, I'm going to tell you all about them, but they're not talking to you, they're talking at you. And it is a very lonely experience, I've found, because you're not really part of the conversation. You're not there, you're just someone to unload, and you suddenly become a psychologist, or you feel like that, and you're not there to be a psychologist, you're there to get to know someone, sure, but getting to know someone is about listening to people's experiences and sharing your own experiences, so it's a two-way street.
How have you navigated that? Like how...
So I was talking to someone on Bumble, who shall go unnamed. Let's call her Liz. And Liz had a lot of trauma. She had a lot of experiences to share, and she told me about them unprompted. But the messages weren't, they were sort of essay length messages, and they went on and on and on. And I kid you not, there was a point where I'm laying in bed, she's messaging me, and I literally put the phone down, walk out, go away for 20 minutes, come back, and she's still messaging me. I haven't replied. I haven't asked questions about what she said. And suddenly I'm going through all this.
That's overwhelming.
It was so overwhelming. And then I said something like, hey, listen, why don't we continue this conversation over a date? Let's grab a coffee and let's have a real conversation. And she said, oh, no, I don't know enough about you.
Because you haven't asked.
Exactly, she hasn't asked. And I thought, how interesting that you're willing to share all this information, some of it quite heavy, very early on, but you don't want to catch up for a coffee?
Yeah, that's too personal, right?
It was bizarre, because I'm not after a pen pal. I'm not on the dating apps to be friends with people. You're there to catch up and see how it goes in person. And there are people out there who, I think they just want a psychologist.
100%.
Yeah.
It's just free therapy. And I think in our day and age of, being able to go to ChatGPT and basically have a AI boyfriend, we are a society of very lonely people. And I don't think loneliness is something that depends on your age. I think everyone experiences loneliness to an extent, and we're so disconnected from each other now that I don't think we properly know how to interact with each other in a dating world. I think the apps have honestly had a really negative impact on how we communicate with each other, when to know when to let those barriers and those walls down to let someone in, because it is such a situation where you're removed from the other person. You can't see them, you can't hear them. I mean, a point that I always used to make, I'm not on apps at the moment, but a point that I always used to make was if we're chatting online, I want to hear your voice. I want to hear something about you, because the reality is when you meet someone in person, I read somewhere that it was like 80% of dating is like your body cues, and it's only 20% of what comes out of your mouth.
I think it's less. I think it's like 7 or 10%. The words, the content, 7 to 10%.
Yeah.
Everything else, 90% is vocal tone, body language, subconscious communication that happens
100%.
without us realising. And you know, talking to someone over an app, that's 10% of who they are, the words they say.
Yeah.
I want the full picture.
Yeah, and it's become amplified, right? Because it's like you have nothing to go on. I can't see you, I can't hear you, I can't smell you. Like, I say that, but like pheromones are a big thing.
Yeah.
The way we respond to people in a social situation. There are so many subtle nuances of dating that are removed when you are talking to someone online. And I think it can be, I think when I think of the word trauma dumping and even trauma bonding, I think danger. I think it's dangerous to completely lay everything out to someone that you don't know, because you don't know that person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think some of those conversations, you might wait a little while, you might leave to later on in the relationship where you can connect on a deeper level, but I think you need to work up to it. What
are your thoughts on like talking about exes with someone you're seeing?
Our first date is a no-no for me.
Okay, interesting.
I had a date. I was going to talk about this in my bad or crazy date stories, but I may as well bring it up now, because I had a phone date during COVID times when I lived in Melbourne. And I was talking to someone on the app, and she said, hey, can I call you? And I said, yeah, sure, this is great. So I gave her a call, and it was like a job interview. She did about 70 to 80% of the talking. I did, about 20. And she spoke a lot of the time about her ex. And it was a complete turn-off. I think she'd been a bit traumatised. Her ex was a starving artist, a musician who spent his days just writing music and sort of laying around at home. And the questions she fired off towards me were, are you in a financial position to put a deposit down on a house? What's your income? It was a job interview.
Wow.
And I didn't just hang up because I was so bemused and curious as to why she's asking these questions, you know. My point of view is why, you know, what happened to chemistry or falling in love before I even worry about how much the other person is making or how they can provide for me.
Yes.
But back to your question, yeah, a lot of the conversation was about her ex, and on a first date, whether that's a phone date or in person or even just talking on the apps, I just don't think it's appropriate.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about your ex.
Yeah.
I want to hear about you.
That's valid.
Yeah.
I think we do take our experiences, our past history, and we kind of predict what the future's going to be.
Sure.
With that. Some of us, not everyone. But I definitely think that if you can't have a conversation with someone as you're getting to know them, and obviously the topic of your past is going to come up. We all have a past. That's a reality of, you know, life and being human. I think it's a red flag if you can't think of one positive thing to say about your ex-partner.
100%.
Because at some point you loved that person, you chose that person. Yes, maybe things didn't work out, and, you know, look, I'm not condoning, you know, some relationships are just downright toxic and you have to call it for what it is. But I think if you have a succession of relationships and all you can pick apart is how terrible that person was, it's like, well, what did you do to contribute to the end of that relationship?
There are two sides to every story.
100%. So I think that's definitely something that I look for, because, I mean, the reality is that person could be then sitting across from someone 6 months from now talking badly about you. Like, you just don't know. If all you're thinking about is your past, you're probably not over it.
This is one of your questions and I'm stealing it.
Go for it.
Do you believe in the one that got away?
Oh, Tim. Do I believe in the one that got away? Yes and no. I think it was Matthew Hussey who said it's not the right person if it didn't work. The whole concept of right person, wrong time doesn't exist, because if it was the right person, it would be the right timing. I think you can really love someone and they're still not good for you. And you kind of hold this image of the fantasy ex in your head of everyone that comes after that person just, I guess, doesn't fill the shoes of that person. And I think that can be considered the one that got away if you're still hung up on an idea of someone. But I also think that with more time that passes and more perspective, I think the reality of that person becomes further and further away. And suddenly they just become, I guess, this idealised fantasy in your head that you've made them up to be. You've conjured this person in your head of how amazing they were or whatever, but that's not really who they are.
No.
What do you think? Do you believe in that concept?
Everything you've just said makes perfect sense. I do believe in the one that got away, or the ones that got away. There are a few women I think of who I thought, if I had done something differently, said something differently, behaved differently, it could have worked out. But you do romanticize them and you do create this fantasy version of that person in your head and you put them on a pedestal. And it's unfair because you, without even realizing it, compare other people to that fantasy version of them. Mm-hmm. Not them, the fantasy version. Mm-hmm. And it's dangerous.
It's so dangerous.
Because it stops you from, A, moving on, and B, sort of letting other people in.
Have you ever been in that situation? Mm.
Absolutely. And I don't think I even realise I'm doing it, but I'm becoming more aware.
I think what you've hit on is such it's such a human thing, though. And I know that there's a lot of shame around that, but, when we think about, whether you have a type, what's that if that's not comparison, right? I remember I went out with someone once and his ex-girlfriend looked exactly like me. The ex-girlfriend before that looked exactly like her. So it's from a physical perspective, yeah, look, we all have types. I think, to an extent we do maybe attract people who remind us or have certain character traits of past relationships.
100%.
I don't know that that's necessarily abnormal.
It's not helpful though, is it really?
It's probably not helpful, no.
I remember 10 years ago I fell for someone and I couldn't tell you why. Years later, I realised that she looked and behaved like someone I used to like even earlier. And I was projecting this idea of the original person onto this new person. And when I think about it now, I didn't really like that person.
Interesting.
In fact, I don't dislike them, but they're just not my type at all. And I can't think of a reason why I'd ever really like them that much.
Yeah.
But I was projecting. I was saying, oh, I remember the person I liked in high school and she reminds me of her and therefore I like her, or something like that. It wasn't an intellectual process, of course. It was all, happened naturally.
Yeah.
And it's so silly, isn't it?
How do we stop ourselves from falling into that pattern, do you think?
I think it's just being self-aware.
Yeah.
I think being aware of that, going, what do I really like about this person? And asking those questions, why do I like this person?
Yeah.
And list them, write them down. And if you can't come up with anything, maybe you're projecting.
That's so powerful. I think you've hit on a really important tip to do, because I feel like, and we talked about this in our first episode, that women in particular, I think we fall in love with potential. So it's like, oh, he could be this guy if I invest a year into him and build him into like a builder can. But the reality is, you need to accept someone for who they are and the qualities and features they bring as they are, because that's the person that you're going to need to wake up to. Yeah.
Which brings me to my next point. I was looking at a reel the other day, I think you sent me, and it was about how, especially on first dates, we present a version of ourselves that is perfect, at least what we think is perfect. And I don't know who the speaker was, but he was saying that you really should be presenting yourself as you are. Now, that doesn't mean you need to reveal all your insecurities and flaws on date one, as we just talked about. But I know this resonated with me, because I know for a fact that on first dates, I often, I dress as well as I can, and I try to present a idealized version of myself so that the other person will like me. And this guy was saying, why don't you just present yourself as you are? Because human beings are messy and they're imperfect. And actually, when you fall in love with someone, you're not falling in love with their perfections, you're falling in love with their imperfections. Which
is so different to I think, very different to how you felt about dating before, right? I remember we had a conversation where you were like, you have to disappoint someone slowly. And that was a very interesting way to look at, I think, I had this argument with someone where they were saying, you can't wear a mask. And I'm like, everyone wears a mask in every situation. You go to work, you wear a mask. You're around different friends, you might be a different person. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but 100% agree that you should be going into a date as yourself. I really like the idea of, in order to take the pressure off of a first date, just act like you're hanging out with your best mate.
Totally. Yeah.
Just, and if that person doesn't like those subtle nuances of who you are, if they don't like the way you laugh, or they don't like your sense of humour, or they don't like, whatever it is about you, you're going to figure that out pretty quickly, and then you don't have to waste time on a second date.
100%. Yeah.
I think that's really powerful, rather than going to a date and being, trying to rehearse what you're going to say and come with a checklist and try and tell the person everything they want to hear. Yeah. That's not fair for you, because you're not being authentic to who you are, but it's also not fair to the other person, because they're falling for a version of you that's...
Yeah, and you're going to disappoint them eventually, because you can't keep that mask up. You can't wear that mask all the time, and eventually you're going to let your guard down and they're going to see the real you. And then if you're not the person they saw originally, they're probably going to fall out of love with you.
100%. Yeah.
So I think it's just something I have to remind myself, that when I go to dates, I don't need to be perfect.
No.
I don't need to present an idealised version of myself. I also don't want to go the other way and just pour my heart out and trauma dump, as we've talked about, but I can just be me, and my flaws and imperfections are okay.
Yeah. And it's a hard balance, right? Because, you don't go into work just saying whatever's on your mind and behaving the way you want to.
Well.
Within reason.
Yeah.
We try to, I think validation seeking is very, normal and natural. And I think we want positive reinforcement. So we want to put our best foot forward, right? In every aspect of life. Sure. And so I don't necessarily think, caring about your appearance, or, you know, spraying your favourite cologne, or like making sure that you are the best version of yourself is not, it's not a bad thing. I think more what you're speaking to is like, you know, trying to be someone you're just not.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm speaking to.
Yeah. Can you, like, do you have an example for like times when you have maybe like not been yourself, and like what that looks like and how to avoid that?
I don't do much of it, but there are certain lines that stick with me that I will throw into conversation. I find
Can
myself,
you give us one?
Oh, you're gonna.
Can you give us one?
Yeah. What do I say? And it's so stupid. If they say something that they're embarrassed about, or they're a little bit shy about.
I'm so shy, Tim. Like I'm trying to think of something now. I hate that I have dimples when I smile.
You know what? You and I are just not going to work out. It's been really nice. I'm going to go now. I do it all the time. I do this. It's kind of a bit of a neg.
Yeah, it's a neg. You're negging.
I'm negging. I've turned into that guy.
Wow, but that's attractive. Like women, they're psychologically, it's so interesting because psychologically, negging is something that actually attracts.
And there's nothing wrong with a little bit of playful banter and a little bit of a neg, but what I'm saying is I've got a few lines that keep coming up and I keep using now without even thinking about it, and I probably don't need to do that. If the neg comes naturally and I, you know, poke fun at them naturally and in the moment, there's nothing wrong with that. What I'm talking about is certain lines that I've rehearsed or
to get a reaction.
To get a reaction, and it's silly, but I have found myself doing it. And it's only a little small part of the date, so it's no big deal. And there's a few other things that we've talked about, of course, the triangle. So you look from one eye to the next, down quickly at their lips, and then back again. So these are things that have come up prominently in the 2000s with Neil Strauss and The Game, so the pickup artistry world, and I read a few of those books, ashamed to say. But they were quite interesting, and they had little tips and tricks, and I'm trying to shake them now because I don't think they actually serve me, because you get in your head about it.
Do you think there is a space for manipulation in dating?
No. I don't think some of these rehearsed lines are manipulation. I think they're just things that I've fallen back on when I get nervous or I run out of things to say. Another one is, you know, making physical contact with the person, like giving them a high five, touching them on the arm just lightly, little things that I've learned just to break that physical barrier, you know, to show you're interested. I think all of those things are fine if they're natural and they're spur of the moment, like, oh, you know, you're sharing a laugh, I might touch you on the shoulder.
Yep.
It's when I get in my head about it and I'm sitting there going, oh, should I touch her on the shoulder now? Like it's...
Yeah, and I think that speaks to like, what is your intention, right? Like how organic is it?
It's just interesting that we were talking about the triangle, because I did it the other night.
Did you?
I was at a singles night.
Okay.
And I was talking to this woman. We're having a great conversation.
Yeah.
And what happened is I stopped listening to do the triangle trick, which is stupid.
Did it work?
I don't know. I mean, I got a number, so maybe it must have. But I think that's where the problem is that you're listening, you're present, you're engaged with someone, which is number one priority. That's what's important, not the, oh, should I high five them now, or should I, you know, pull out one of my witty one-liners. That's not important, and yet I still do it.
Yeah, okay.
And so I've got to catch myself.
Interesting.
I don't need to look at one eye to the next, to the lips and back again.
Because you're doing it naturally.
Because I'm doing it naturally, and I'm listening, and they have something interesting to say, and I want to hear what they have to say. So I think in some ways those pickup artist books have fucked me up a little bit.
Do you know what? I feel like that is the most relatable thing that you could say. And I don't think that there's any shame in admitting that we have been influenced by our culture of pickup artistry and manipulating someone to get into bed with them. I think human beings do things to get their own way.
True, and you know what else it is? It comes from a place of believing that I am not enough, that I have to pull out a few magic tricks to impress someone. And that's why I still catch myself doing it, because deep down maybe I still don't think I'm enough. I'm getting better, but there are times where I think, oh no, I'm not interesting enough, I'm not funny enough, I'm going to have to pull out a magic trick. Like literally guys will pull out a deck of cards and say, hey, look at this.
Yeah.
Not that I've ever done that.
It's like peacocking, isn't it?
It's peacocking,
like,
yeah. It's another pickup artist thing, peacocking, you know.
I don't know why, that made me really emotional.
Because I think it's true. We want to be enough for someone. We desperately want love and to be accepted and just liked in general.
100%.
And when we're feeling insecure and that we're not being enough for the other person, we feel as though we have to put on a bit of a show and dance.
Yeah.
And ironically, I think that's what is going to get you rejected.
Yeah, that's right. Because, and ultimately, you know, and we've had this conversation before about rejection. This is a bit of a going off topic, but just on that note, you're not for everyone. No. I'm not for everyone. Like, not everyone is going to like you, and it's a hard part of life to accept, but it's also really normal. Like, you wouldn't want everyone to like you because, like, you're not for everyone. And I think for me, I've really struggled with this in a friendship kind of situation where I've tried to be someone I'm not in order to make people like me, and it never works.
Never.
It never works because you're not being authentic to who you are. But particularly when it comes to dating, it's like, okay, like, you know, the first date didn't work out, you've ghosted me, cool, move on to the next one.
Yeah, exactly. We get hung up on those people who have ghosted us, or we thought there was something and then suddenly there wasn't, and we want them back, and we think, oh, what can I do? What can I say? What magic message can I send to get them interested in me? And maybe you're right. They're not meant for you, and you should move on to the next person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, here's a question for you. Sex on the first date, yay or nay?
Nay, 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 nay. Look, you do you. I will never judge anyone for the choices they make in life, ever. For me personally, it's a hard no. And it's funny because, like, I listened to a podcast once where a guy, I can't remember what the context was, but I remember the speaker was saying he would go home with a girl on the first date and sleep with her, but he wouldn't respect her, and that would influence whether he decided to pursue something with her.
How interesting.
And I think that's so cruel, right? Like, you're willing to get to that level with someone, but your own personal boundaries limit you from wanting to pursue anything further. The way I see it, and, you know, I love this, she's a podcast host. Her name is Sarah Al-Madani, and she said something the other day which really resonated with me, which is you wouldn't go putting your phone charger into anyone's computer slot. Because who knows what virus you're going to contract, right? Who knows who's going to steal your data? Who knows whatever? So why would you fuck around? And, you know, like, I personally feel very strongly about this subject of intimacy, because I think, you know, I think we've really removed sex from emotional connection. And I think we see sex now as just like having a cup of coffee. It's just a part of getting to know someone. And I think the reality is so much happens during, you know, physical intimacy. And I think, you know, you can exchange energy with someone that isn't right for you. And actually, like, scientifically, it's proven that when women are intimate with men, we release the bonding hormone. And
what is that? Do you know? Is it?
Oh, I think it's oxytocin.
Oxytocin, yeah.
Yeah, we naturally release oxytocin, and so when we sleep with someone, we automatically think, oh, this person could be a good candidate for being a father, and that's really dangerous if you've just met someone. For a man, sex is seen as they don't release. I don't know if they release. I don't know what they release during sex, to be honest.
Well, I do.
I'm sure you. But men actually release vasopressin, which is the stress hormone, when they don't get it. When there's time, when there's, you know, men actually bond quicker to women when they don't have that physical connection So if a woman, so that's the whole, playing hard to get thing. There's actually a biological imperative behind that. And
What?
it's like the more you make a man wait for it, the more he's going to want you and more likely to commit to you.
How interesting. I didn't know that.
So, yeah, going back to your main point, sex on a first date, it's a hard no for me. I can see why it happens.
Yep.
I know that our culture now is very, sexually liberated, for lack of a better word. But, yeah, I don't know. I think it depends on the person. What do you think?
Yeah, sure.
How did I know you would say that?
Well, look, okay, no, I think I do actually agree with what you're saying on a serious note. I think if there's enough chemistry, if you're really hitting it off, I don't see a problem with it. However, I do agree with what you're saying, that the longer you get to know someone, the more of a deeper emotional connection you can form with them. And I would argue that sex is much better when you have a deeper connection with someone.
Yeah.
So if you're going to wait to date 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it is, you're going to have bonded with that person more. And then sex is more enjoyable that way anyway, because you really want to have sex with them, not just... Because you don't know who someone is when you first meet them.
You don't. And I think if you're... My attitude, and, some people might disagree with this, but my attitude is if you're not ready to have a serious conversation with someone about your past, about what it is that you like in life, about who you are as a person, you shouldn't be getting naked with them.
Fair enough.
Call me old school, call me, old-fashioned, whatever, but I think we've lost the art of courting, Tim.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Like I was having a chat with a friend a few weeks ago and they were saying there's an expectation now that you're going to sleep with someone on a third date.
Yep.
And that prevents a lot of girls from feeling like going out for dinner with a guy because the kind of expectation is, if he buys me dinner, he's going to expect intimacy. And I'm so concerned and disturbed by that concept, that there's an expectation there that just because we go out for dinner together, that's at the end of it.
Yeah, and that leads me on to my next question, because I've been to dinner with a few women over the last few weeks, and I wanted to ask you...
Dinner or dinner?
Yeah, no, dinner, just dinner, How do you feel about the man paying? Because I have offered to pay. I made that decision and I was grappling with it before the date. And eventually I've gone, no, I'm going to offer to pay for everything. Because and it wasn't because I wanted or expected sex afterwards. It was because I feel as though I should.
Yeah, traditionally. Yeah.
Traditionally. So, but when I've offered and said, I'll pay for it, or what I've done is I've gone, I'll pay for the main meal, you pay for the drinks. Obviously the drinks is a lot less.
Yep.
Main meal is a lot more. I've been met with a little resistance. I've been met with women going, they've almost been offended. I can't put my finger on it, but they've been a little bit unsettled by the fact that I'm offering to pay. Well,
and I wonder if that's because they think he expects intimacy after this. I wonder if that maybe plays. I do think we live in a culture now where, and we talked about this in our first episode, where there is a bit of a battle of the sexes. Women statistically are making just as much in some countries, if not more than men. And so there's a real movement towards, I don't need a man, I can pay my own way.
Yeah, and ironically, these women were probably making more than me anyway. So,
yeah.
It was a gesture, yeah.
I think it's really sweet. I would say it's a very big green flag if a man is willing to pay for dinner. I think in the context of a relationship, I think it needs to be more equal. Past the third date, I think a woman should be contributing or at least wanting to. I think that's just having human decency. I
don't think it's a bad thing if on one date I pay and the next date she pays.
Yeah.
I think in those initial dating stages, I've just got it ingrained in me that I should be paying.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's culture, society, whatever.
But it's who you are. And I think, I only think it's a problem when women go into dates with the expectation of, I'm going on this for a free meal. I don't like that. I've never understood the concept of flirting with a guy in order to get drinks paid for me.
Yeah.
That has never been a reality for me, never will be a reality for me. If a guy wants to buy me a drink, great, but it's not like I'm going to manipulate him in order to do, that's just be a decent human being,
Yeah, it's not cool.
It's not cool. having said that, I think I would be uncomfortable if like the first date we went to like a 5-star Michelin restaurant and a guy spent $200. Like that's weird. But hey, you want to take me out for a coffee and breakfast? Go for it.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. That's cool. I'll keep that in mind. But what about kisses on the first date? Kissing on the first date, second date, third date? Because I read somewhere that, after the third date, if you haven't kissed them yet, you're verging into friend zone territory.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think, yes, kissing on the first date's a green light for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think if the night's going well and there's chemistry flowing and, I think as well, like body language, what we talked about before, like I think you can tell pretty early on whether someone likes you. And, if a date is going well, I would hope that naturally we're getting closer, we're sitting closer to each other. Like you said, maybe there's a touch on the arm. There are those subtle cues that will tell me whether a person likes me or not, right? And so I think it's something that should happen organically and naturally. I think if you want to go for it, go for it.
Sure.
Yeah. What about you? Do you?
I agree. I think if there's chemistry on date one, I don't think you should linger. It doesn't need to be a make-out sesh. But absolutely a kiss on the first date at the end is important, I think, just to show that, hey, I am interested and it's been a nice time. I want to end this on a positive note. But yeah, also if you've been on 3 or 4 dates and you haven't made that move and then, the chemistry starts dying and maybe they just see you as a friend, well...
Have you been in situations like that?
Yeah, I have, but I'm sort of aware that, if we haven't kissed after date 3 or 4...
It's probably not going to go anywhere.
It's probably not going to go anywhere.
I feel like nowadays dates are so, structured. It's like rule 1 for this date and rule 2 for this date. And it's like we go into it with this idea of, having to be so, perfectly choreographed. But, what if you meet someone and you hit it off on the first date and then you just... you hear stories where people meet and then they just see each other every day for the next 2 weeks and then suddenly they're in a relationship. Do you think that... Do you believe in moving too fast?
That's a tough one to answer because I like the idea of meeting someone you have such chemistry with that you want to see each other every day for the next 2 weeks. That sounds great. I'd love that. Please, someone, anyone.
If you guys are listening, Tim would love to spend 2 weeks with you.
No, it'd be great. But at the same time, there is an idea that you want to give someone a little bit of time to miss you. Because you can overstay your welcome a little bit, right?
You need to activate that stress hormone, that vasopressin.
Exactly, yeah. So sometimes, not seeing each other for a few days, I think that's when love starts to happen, is the in-between.
Oh, interesting.
I could be wrong, but I think, because you start thinking about that person, you go, oh, I haven't heard from that person for a while. What are they doing? What are they thinking? Are they talking to other women? Are they talking to other men? And that's when you start thinking about them that I think love actually kind of happens.
Is that love or is that lust?
I don't know. Both, maybe.
What do you... Did we talk about this in our first episode? What do you define as love?
I can't remember what I did yesterday, let alone what we talked about now.
Well, let's talk about it. What do you think the difference is? But I mean, we all know what lust is. But what... Define love.
It's a chemical reaction, right?
Is it?
I don't know.
Or is it a choice?
Oh, that's a good one. I think for me, love is a chemical reaction. It's a natural process. It's a feeling. However, if a relationship is a choice, right? A successful relationship, you choose. Because I think you can I don't believe you can just fall in love with one person.
No. Okay.
I think you can fall in love with multiple people. I think we're both examples of that. You've had exes, I've had exes.
Yeah.
So when you fall in love with someone, it's possible that you could fall in love with someone else, a co-worker, someone you meet at a bar. But it's a choice to stay loyal and faithful to that one person and work on that relationship, even if you have really strong feelings for someone else.
So I guess in that case, then, if you believe that love is a chemical reaction, what's to prevent you from being in a relationship with someone and falling for someone else?
Nothing can stop that.
Wow.
You will, I guarantee you're going to have interactions with people where there's chemistry and that you might fall in love or at least be infatuated with someone else. We're human beings. That's going to happen without us even trying. You've got a co-worker you see every day. You're working on projects together.
Proximity. The effect of proximity. It's an actual thing.
Yes.
I find that so interesting. Like the more time you spend with someone, the more you kind of perceive them differently and therefore become attracted to them.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that's love though.
Maybe not, but it can lead to love,
Yes.
potentially.
Yeah.
So it's a choice to not text them and catch up for a coffee. It's a choice to say no if they ask you. It's a choice to distance yourself, keep them at arm's length out of respect for your partner.
I love that so much. And it's funny because, again, this is going off on a bit of a tangent, but I'm big on boundaries in a relationship. There's so many grey areas now in relationships. And I think you and I have had this conversation where I've said to you, like, you know, like in your industry, you have a lot of female friends. If you got a partner, how would that work, right? And, you know, at the end of the day, if someone's going to cheat on you, they're going to cheat on you. That's comes down to who you are as an individual. But I do believe that not putting yourself in situations where that could happen out of respect for your partner will prevent that from happening. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, of course you can't prevent having chemistry with another person or being attracted to another person, but you can prevent, you know, like you might have the ingredients for a cake, but that doesn't mean you need to stand in the kitchen and bake it, right?
I do like cake.
Do you? Wrong analogy.
Wrong analogy, sorry. No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Like, you know, I always joke and say, like, you can look at the menu, just don't order off of it. Like,
What's the other one? It doesn't matter where you get a bite to eat as long as you come home for dinner or something.
I mean, that would imply that you're going out and like in an open relationship and coming home to your partner. But like, I don't know, like how do you think that kind of transposes to the real world? Because we live in a culture where men and women interact on a daily basis. Like, that's normal. How do we stop ourselves from like crossing that line?
Being very strict with yourself. It's discipline, right? It's being able to say, no, I've got a partner. This person is attractive. This other person who's talking to me, the coworker, whoever, they're attractive. There's chemistry, and that's great. But Sally's at home, or whoever, you know, and I'm going home to that person. And I made a vow to that person, whether that's through marriage or just saying, hey, let's be together. Yeah. And I'm going to stick with that. Now, perhaps that's easier said than done. I think, you know, it was hard for me when I was in my early 20s. I was terrible because I may have been with someone, but I found other people attractive. Yeah. And it was hard. It's a hard thing to do. It's not easy, but you've got to be strict, you know. Yeah.
I think people carry a lot of guilt around that. I remember like watching an interview with Megan Fox, and she was saying, I would fall in love with a different person every day on set, right? And she was married from a young age. I don't know. I think, it's definitely something that's troubled me over the years, because I think when you're with someone, you do need to switch that part of yourself off. And I also think as well, if you're having most of your needs met in a relationship, I mean, look, I know people have different schools of thought on this. I know Esther Perel, who I'm sure you've seen before, she says you can't possibly get all of your needs met out of a relationship. That's why we have a community. We outsource, you know, the conversations you and I might have, you might not get with your partner, or the conversations you have with your best mate, Harry, might be, you know, whatever. But I do think that if you've bonded to someone, you should not be allowing yourself to emotionally bond to another person.
Yeah, that's the choice part. You know, but you're right, you know, if your needs are being met by this amazing person, why would you
risk it?
Why would you risk it? Yeah.
Don't risk it for the biscuit.
Well, I like biscuits as well. Would you ever go to a singles night? So just to clarify, so singles nights, they've taken off, especially here in Adelaide, but I think over the world, where the dating apps just aren't cutting it anymore. So there's a bar, and in that bar, everyone is single. And you pay your $25, $30, and you go there and chat to people all night. I've been to quite a few. I'm not going to tell you how many. I've been to a few.
That's good.
They're great. They're great fun. Would you ever go?
I want to answer this in two parts. I think the first part is there is a bit of a, I don't know if revolution's the right word, but like there has been a bit of a uproar against dating apps where people are just don't want a bar of it. And I think that's fucking fantastic, honestly, because I think it has ruined the way we date. I would go to a dating singles night to be your wing woman. In terms of like for myself, the idea of going into an environment that is already kind of pre-planned terrifies me. I have social anxiety, and the idea that of having to go in and just almost cold call dates, that's scary to me. Like, I don't like the idea of that. I more like the idea of meeting someone organically out. And again, people don't meet each other out, right? Like, they don't meet at bars, which is why this whole concept exists.
Yeah, I think because if I go to a bar by myself or even with friends, I find that harder to approach women in those situations than I do at the singles night, because at the singles night, we're all there for the same reason.
Yeah.
We all know what we're in for.
Yeah.
You're sort of expected to approach people that you don't know. No one's going to be surprised if I walk up to them and start talking to them. It's a singles night. That's what we're there for.
What is the ratio of men to women at these events?
They try to make it 50-50. I've been to a few where by the end of the night, there's a lot more men than women. Funnily enough, it's still nerve-wracking. It doesn't matter what the event is or what the expectations are. It's still a little bit scary to walk up to a bunch of strangers, a group of women, and start talking to them.
Yeah.
Because I've been to a few, and I don't know if I'm now quite confident or I just don't care anymore.
A bit like public speaking, isn't it? It's like once you do it a few times.
Yeah. So I don't care. I just go up and start talking to people. And
do women do that? Will women approach men?
Yeah, but not as often.
Okay, so do women just kind of walk me through what that looks like? Do you get there and the women sit down and get a drink and they kind of just wait for the man to approach them?
Look, some women do approach men. Women have approached me, which is great. I encourage it. I think that's fantastic. It takes a lot of bravery. Otherwise, a lot of women, not all women, but some women will come along with their friends and they'll sort of stick together, and I will kind of hone in on the group and say, hey, I'm Tim, and blah, 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 blah. So, you do see a lot of guys approaching women more so than women approaching guys.
We went and saw a music show together, and we were having this conversation about there were multiple groups of people around us, remember? We were my comment to you was, how hard would it be to see someone that you think is attractive and go up to them and be like, insert yourself into the conversation when there's hard. 6 people, almost like an army protecting that person. It's like that gives me the worst anxiety.
It is really hard, and they talked about that in those pickup artist books, and they gave you little clues and exercises to do to insert yourself into a group of strangers just because you're interested in one person. And I've never really been able to do that except at these single nights.
Interesting.
But yeah, you're right. Like at a bar or at an event, they're out with their friends, and then you're just this lone guy, coming along trying to insert yourself in a group. I've tried it before. You get a lot of odd looks. Everyone goes silent, and who is this guy? What does he want?
I think that's the thing, people, and I think women particularly are very guarded in terms of if a man approaches you unsolicited, the walls go up. And there's an immediate, because obviously, we also have to think about personal safety as well, right? As a woman, let's say I've left a restaurant or a bar, it is not uncommon for me to take my keys and put them between my knuckles. Yeah. Because I'm already hyper vigilant of the fact that anything could happen.
It's a sad reality, but what about in the club or in the bar? Because you're with people.
In the bar, if a man approaches me, even if he's attractive, my first thought is, what do you want from me? Yeah. And my guard goes up. Like I've said before, I'm a socially anxious person, but if I am there for a reason, like recently I did my first live music show, did my first open mic, which was very exciting. And you do gain confidence from that, because it's like you're there for a reason. And so if someone approached me, not even dating, just like a random person came up to me and was like, you sounded great tonight, I would be more like open and receptive to have a chat with them, because it's like, I'm here for a reason.
I think it's also to do with intention and confidence.
Yes.
So I had an experience at a dating night recently where I went up to a group of 3 women and I just started talking. Hey, how are you? I'm Tim. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? What's your story? And we had a great chat, and it was a fantastic night. Hung around with those 3 women for the rest of the night. We had a lot of laughs. I think they were buying me drinks by the end of the night. It was great.
What more could you want?
It was great. However, there were also guys in the same room who would walk up to these three women as I was talking to them and just stand next to them, and they wouldn't say a thing. And they were awkward, they were fidgety. And one of the women in particular, let's call her Margaret, would look at me like, save me. There's this guy standing next to me. He hasn't said a word in 5-10 minutes. I know he's interested in me, but he can't even say hello. Help me out. And I did. I'd kind of pull her away, or I'd start talking to her and block him out. So I think it's about confidence and personability and friendliness. If you're going up to someone saying, hey, how are you? Like, I'd love to have a chat. Most people, regardless of the environment, are going to be okay with that. But if you kind of approach someone and you're a bit shifty and you're looking down, and then you come up with a line like, oh, you look like a fisherman, which is what this guy said to Margaret.
Oh, bless.
I mean, I felt sorry for him personally, because I've been that guy. I've been there. I know what that's like when you're so nervous that you don't know what to say and you just start saying words and it all goes to shit. But
how did you get to this point?
Repetition. Yeah, repetition. Doing it over and over and over again. And also being okay in myself. So learning that if this woman rejects me, I'll be okay.
Not the end of the world, right?
No, it was when I was 20, even in my early 30s. I'd be devastated. But I'm confident enough in myself that if I approach a woman and she doesn't want a bar of me, like, that's okay.
Because, going back to our first point, we're not for everyone.
We're not for everyone, exactly. And I know my worth. And if they can't see that, or they're not even going to give me the opportunity to show that, that is their loss. Yeah. My worth doesn't depend on whether or not this woman finds me attractive or wants to have anything to do with me. Yeah.
I think that's really powerful.
So we're coming to the end of the episode, and I'd like to end on a positive note this time around. Can you tell me a good dating story of yours?
Yes, I went on a date and it was just fun. Like, there was just, I think when you have chemistry with someone, we talked about this earlier on the podcast, like, you know, pretty early on. And it was just a silly moment where we were driving. I was driving my date's car because he wanted to have a couple of glasses of wine. I was like, I'll drive you back to your house. And we were just being silly, and like his car was making like this weird like spluttery noise. I don't know if there was something wrong with the gearbox or whatever, but I was taking the piss out of him and I was negging a little bit, and it was just fun. Like, we pulled up to the traffic lights and we kind of just looked at each other and we were like, yeah, there's definitely like chemistry here. And it was just fun. Like, you know, just have fun with the person that you're going out with, because at the end of the day, if you can't have fun and joke and share a sense of humour with that person, they're not your person.
Absolutely. Did it go anywhere?
To be continued.
Oh.
What about you?
Yeah, so the one that comes to mind is I was dating a girl in Melbourne for a little while, and she unfortunately moved interstate and it didn't work out. But the date I remember with her is we went swimming in the ocean and it was pouring with rain. There wasn't a soul anywhere else on the beach. There was a lightning storm, in fact. And we didn't care that it was cold or raining or the waves were thrashing us about. We were just enjoying each other's company. Just a side note, we weren't skinny dipping.
I was about to ask.
We did have our bathers on. And we could have been struck by lightning, but I don't think I would have really cared, because I really liked this girl and I think she really liked me at the time anyway, and it was just really romantic.
Did you see her again after that?
Yeah, I saw her again after that, but like I said, she moved away interstate and it was a little bit messy, and yeah, unfortunately it didn't work out.
That sounds like it's a really beautiful memory to have, and I think sometimes people are there for a reason or a season or a lifetime, and having that memory is really special. So
yeah, it was just a really nice date. We went on another date. We went walking through the Dandenong Ranges and just doing something I love, which is hiking and, you know, seeing echidnas and walking through this magical place. And I remember we just laid down in the long grass at one point together, And
That sounds like the beginning of an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
yeah. That's not what I was going for.
Sorry.
But it was just nice, this image I have in my head of just laying down in the long grass and just talking with her, you know, being close to someone in nature and just enjoying each other's company was really, really nice.
That's so special. And I think, you know, it comes down to, it doesn't need to be something big and glamorous, and, you know, you don't need to go and do something with someone that is, you know, I think we place so much emphasis on like, oh, okay, and it has to be a fancy restaurant and we have to, and it's like, no, if you're having a good time with someone, it doesn't matter where you are.
Does not matter. No, I totally agree.
That's really lovely.
It is lovely. Are you going to come back? Are you going to film another episode with me?
I don't think you can get rid of me at this stage.
I don't think so. She's coming back.
I'm coming back, guys. Watch this space.
Well, thank you very much again for being here. It's been a delight to talk to you, as always.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
That's okay.
It's
Peace
a wrap.
out. It's a wrap.
Woo!
Do you see what I did there? I just gave her a high five. Just, you know, snuck it in there. A bit of physical contact.
Is that how the boys and girls do it these days? They just like high five each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
I'm
cute.
going to throw a few negs in there. A bit of eye contact,
So if
triangle.
you're taking anything away from today, guys, neg the person you're into and occasionally high five them.
Works for me.